All right, we are.
My mic was off that entire time. We're going to break down what is happening over the weekend that could affect the crypto markets, and it could be quite dangerous. We've already seen a very big sell-off, but today we're going to really break down why that's happening, what you need to know to make sure that you can position yourself to be hopefully in front coming into this big news announcement. But Matty, it's been a crazy week.
Mate, it has been an unbelievable week on the market.
It's been crazy.
It has been absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I've got some amazing setups on the charts, but everything is just stagnant right now. And everyone's watching and waiting for what we're going to go through very, very soon. Bunch of news events this week as well. And I'm just looking at things on the charts and going, hey, you are in the most perfect setup. But man, I've been in and out of profit all week. And right now, I cannot wait for what is happening tomorrow to be completely done and dusted. So then we can come into next week nice and fresh, ready to rumble, and have some sort of sentiment that has been cemented at least with a future outlook of the market. Whether it's bullish or bearish, obviously we want it to be bullish because it'd be fantastic for everyone. But I just want some sort of direction.
I just want some clarity.
I am over, up, down, 3 and 4% every single day.
I knew this week was going to be quite rough, and I addressed the community on Tuesday. I said, guys, this week I'm more or less just going to sit it out. It's just going to be boring. It's going to be a big bunch of chop. Probably going to, get smacked out of a lot of positions this week if you don't play it smart. And that's why now, I'm now getting ready for what is going to be next week and moving into September, which usually isn't too bad of a month.
Mate, we got to the point, right? And it says, I don't know if you want to share my screen for a second, but we got to this point this week, right? We started writing prayers about the crypto market, right? Shout out to one of our coaches, Sean. He put this prayer together. We backed it in ChatGPT and got a nice image for it. But we got to the point where we were that over the market's movements for the week. We started making up prayers. That is the extent. And Seds knows I'm very much the type of person that is very disciplined in the market. I'm happy to ride the chop out, but I've got to the point now it's like, can you just make a decision?
Well, guys, let's get into the data because we've got lots to go through. And starting off with, we're moving into now September. So we do want to have a quick look at the next quarter, how the next quarter could look for the crypto markets. And historically, during a bull market, Q4 tends to be one of the most bullish quarters for us. However, there is a whole bunch of criteria that we usually want to see before we turn around and say that, hey, this is going to be really, really bullish. Now, if you've been on our live calls for the last couple of weeks, you'd be aware of how we've been talking about the rate cuts, how we've been talking about how that really affects the price of crypto. And historically, we do tend to see a lot more liquidity being injected into the markets in the final quarter of the year. If we go back and we take a look and just quickly, because I know we have spoken about this for the last couple of weeks, but traditionally when we see rate cuts, we do tend to see the price of Bitcoin tend to go up. But there is something that is kind of holding us back right now and causing a lot of fear in the market, and hence why we have seen the sell-off. You can see the last time we got a 0.5% rate cut here in September 2024. Markets rallied from 57,000 all the way up to about 108. We're going to call it 106. A bit of a wick up to 110, but we won't talk about that. And then, and now we've got our next rate cut, which is going to be due quite soon if it's going to come. So let's break down the data, because right now, one of the major events that's about to take place, which will be tonight for us here in Australia, but it'll be more so Friday for the guys over in the US, is a big event which we call the Jackson Hole Symposium. Now, that is scheduled to take place, or has been taking place now since yesterday. We're now heading to here where Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he's going to be talking, and that's going to be at midnight here for us in Australia. So really keeping your eyes on the market around this time, because I do expect massive volatility. But before we go into why we're expecting massive volatility, let's talk a little bit about what this whole Jackson Hole Economic Symposium is. because this is an annual event that happens once a year. And at this event, this is when the most significant gathering in the financial world where central bankers, policymakers, and economists converge to discuss pressing economic challenges. They start talking about what's happening in the economy, how they're going to be looking at moving forward, and more or less they start to plan how that's going to look. Now, held against the breathtaking backdrop of Wyoming's Grand Teton Mountains, this event regularly moves the markets, but more importantly, it shapes it shapes global economic policy direction. And when we talk about economic policy direction, they're going to start talking potentially about things like quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, which we think is coming to an end and we're heading towards easing. But also, they'll be talking about the interest rate policy, what they're looking at doing, how they're what steps and what things they're looking at in order to see that policy change, and more or less what they expect. Now, from what we've seen in the markets historically, usually coming into this event, it is quite a red week. A lot of traders, because they know the volatility can get quite extreme, they like to sit out. They like to sit out and say, okay, let's let all of this blow over and then let's take action when we know what the data is going to be said. The last thing that you want to do during such an important event like this is be stuck in high leveraged trades. You know, you got 50x, 100x, where you've only got 1,000, like 1-2% before it hits your stop loss. It's a time like that that some traders and some of the smarter traders would say, well, hey, let's just get out. Let's sit away from it and, you know, come back and reevaluate later. I'm just looking in the chat, Andrew Spades. Please don't use Crypto Rover as a reference. Mate, Crypto Rover has some really average posts at sometimes, right? But when it comes to things like news events and stuff like that, like he's just calling out what date it is, for something like that, the news event's there, you know, you can back check that one.
You can look up the articles or grab an easy one on X. But I wanted one thing to address with this, Seds, is really what are we looking for? With Jackson Hole, this whole event, with Fed Powell,
Yep.
we want to see his tone, right? You want to see what he's coming out with, because he's going to set the precedence of what essentially the economic climate's going to look like, over the next 12 months. So in your eyes, are we going dovish? Are we going hawkish? For those that don't know, dovish is when we start to get that quantitative easing, you know, lower interest rates, money supply, stimulus.
And that's when the markets go bullish.
Markets go bullish, and then hawkish means they're coming down potentially, right? Interest rates may not be moving. You know, who knows? We'll just wait and see. But what are we looking for?
Well, first off, we need to look at the data and see how it usually looks. And here I've got a little spreadsheet, we're going to call it, of how it has looked in the past, thanks to one of the crypto alpha groups that I'm in. And what we can see here, this is measuring the changes in the SPY, which, you know, tracks the price of crypto quite well, the high correlation. And what we can see that usually coming into this event, we can see that there's most of the time there's a sell-off, okay? If not, it's looking average. The day of the speech, however, which is what we're going to see. You can see in 2022, that caused a negative 3.37% sell-off. What he said in 2022 really
on the stock market, that is massive.
That's huge.
That is huge.
And which that then led to 5 days after the market being negative 7.85%. So it's because of such news like this that these traders do decide to stay out. We wait. And we just wait for clearer direction. Like, why do something when you're uncertain? You're basically gambling at that point. It's either you have a direction, you know what's going on, or you're sitting there thinking, well, it might do this, it might do that, but you don't know. You don't know. And unless you're Jerome Powell himself, or you work with him, or, you know, you've got some kind of access to what he's going to say, well, there's no point gambling on that. And that's why today what we're going to do is we're going to break down some of the data to show you what he may say so that we can try to make a better decision. Nobody knows what will happen, and TA is only good 30% of the time. I'm seeing that here from a guy named Bait. Mate, technical analysis is usually, right?
Hey, we can put us on both of us for a second. Yeah. This is an interesting one. I love seeing comments like this.
Why is that?
Because technical analysis works off past historic data. That is the only way it's beneficial. So you're looking for big pricing activities. Now, one of the big ones that people stuff up with, I'm going to be blatantly honest here, is they use TA and they just don't know how to use it properly.
Yep, that's what
I'm going to call this out really clear, right? Because I can tell you now, I am purely in TA, and mate, Seds, you know this, and a lot of people within Empire know this, I purely trade based upon technical analysis.
Well, Matty, this
and
is
the news gives me the kick it needs. to give me that final piece of the puzzle.
This
so,
is the thing that, and the way that you need to think of it,
ooh.
right? So this is the way I analyze it. So I look at this and I say, well, we don't exactly have Jerome Powell on WhatsApp, or I can message him and be like, hey, brother, what's going on, right? But other people do, okay? And other people are working with Jerome Powell.
Yes.
And it is a thing where people know the information sometimes before it comes out. I think that's a very relevant thing, especially when we're talking about the US government. You can go look at Nancy Pelosi as probably one of the best examples, right?
Oh, imagine her on speed dial.
Oh, mate, that'd be grouse. We'd be loaded.
We'd be killing
anyway,
it.
But in saying that, right, the technical analysis gives you an understanding of how the market is reacting prior to an event. And if someone knows something, if you start to see big money start to exit, you start to see the selling pressure start to kick in or the buying pressure die off, then that's a big indication of what could come. So just taking a look at my charts real quick before we get into the information, and we're going to look at Matty's chart as well. He's our technical analysis guy. I'm more of the fundamental guy. So, when it comes to TA, you're probably better off relying on him. But looking at the chart, right, you can see that before we came into the event, you can see that we had a massive sell-off where people started to get fear that we weren't going to get the rate cuts. And if you were to ask me what caused that, well, a lot of that comes down to what we saw in the inflation numbers, right?
Yep.
The inflation numbers came back terribly high. We were meant to see a forecast of around 2.5. It came in at 3.3, which is bloody huge. The issue with this is, right, you get inflation, maybe 2.6, 2.7, and that can be a little bit scary in the markets. You blow that out the water to 3.3 and everyone shits themselves.
Oh.
And that came the week just before we saw the Jackson Hole Symposium. So let's take a quick look at the data. First off, we're seeing that the Federal Reserve official is saying that we can cut 100 basis points into 2026. And yes, once again, that is looking at from what Crypto Rover is saying. But there's a lot of other relevant sources that I like to look at. And some of these are Walter Bloomberg. He is an analyst that's been around for quite some time. And he says the dollar may rise if Powell avoids clear rate cut signals on Friday. Okay? This is the thing.
We link that with this.
We can. We're going to look at this in a second. So the thing is if rate cuts are more or less announced, the dollar will potentially lose some of its value. It'll come down. DXY comes down. And when a DXY comes down, we tend to see Bitcoin react in the opposite direction. They're inverse correlation. Bitcoin tends to go up when the dollar value goes down. But Matty, how is the dollar value looking right now? So show us your chart.
I'll show you. So, way I'm looking at the dollar at the moment, and said we've been speaking about this all week. I also spoke about this on Monday with the students that were on the call. I was saying when I'm looking at the dollar at this point in time, right, and I'm even looking at the dollar against other currencies like the AUD. And although the fact people saying the AUD is losing value, the US dollar is gaining momentum.
It is.
I am making money at the moment by holding US dollars, right?
There you go.
And I'm looking at this chart at the moment, and I'm predicting if we push up to this 100 level, which is well within this channel, within this range, you can see that here, we're coming off a very low base at the moment. And this is where essentially this is a big resistance point on the weekly time frame. I do suspect if they don't cut rates, you're going to see this accelerate. And we're going to see Bitcoin come back down to around 108, 106K. It's going to be a sharp decline. Now, is this a guarantee? Of course not. We don't know what he's going to say exactly. But if they're saying, like you've got there's a prediction of almost 100 basis point cut, that doesn't technically mean they need to start cutting right now.
No, that means they could start doing it in January, February.
Well, they could even go, you know what, October, we're going to do 0.5 of a cut. And then in come December, here's your Christmas bonus. Here's another 0.5.
So then how does it look now? Between now and then, it's just chop, 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 waiting for clues of when they're going to come.
Yep, and that's why this
So, Matty, for the new guys,
important.
For the new guys,
yes,
right? Because we know there's people of all different skill levels on this call.
Yep.
Can you split your chart in half and show how Bitcoin reacts to the US dollar?
Sure thing. Let's bring this up. So, I'm going to cross here. We'll go sideways. Bring this one. I've got to clear up some of this, guys, for you. And I'll go the most basic chart here. Let me bring that one back. I'll go this the most basic one here. Spread this out. Now, what we have here on the right-hand side is we have Bitcoin.
That's 15 minutes, though. You got to change that.
Yeah, we're on the daily. Here you go. We've got the daily on one side of the US dollar, the Dixie, and then we've got Bitcoin as well. Now, as I was saying, this is majority of the time it's been correlated, right? Especially back in the day, this was heavy. This was heavy correlation. Now, at the moment, you can see, guys, right now, this is where we are with Bitcoin. As the Dixie has been rising, right? You can see, if you look to the right of my screen, the Bitcoin has come down essentially.
It's followed
This here, and I'm going to mark this out just for everyone's reference. I'm going to put a horizontal line on the chart. And I'm going to put it back just to when we started raising, so the 13th of August. And we'll put one here again on the 13th of August. And you can see here, guys, when we hit the bottom on the Dixie, and then we've come up, and we've only pushed from this point currently, the Dixie has only moved 1.1%.
And that's caused
Let's
that
put that
dump.
into perspective, right? And Bitcoin has dropped 9%. So now, on the last piece of this puzzle, if this pushes up to the resistance point, which is another 1.5%, is Bitcoin going to drop another $10,000?
Well, that's one thing to consider. But another thing that I like to consider as well is like, hey, based on the data that I'm about to show you guys, there is definitely some fear that rates are not going to be cut. Okay.
Of course.
Go back 2 weeks ago before that PPI announcement came out, and it was actually at one stage. There was
99%?
Yeah, there was almost a 100% chance that they were going to be cut. And I was that bullish. I was like, man, I'm going to start getting into the markets before this rate cut happens. And it changes. That's the thing. Like, we have to go off the data of what we're seeing at a certain given time. So looking at this now, right, the way I like to think of it is if there's enough clues that rates are not going to get cut, what happens to the market? They either start to sell off, right, to avoid the volatility that's going to come.
Yep.
But what they also do is they start to price in that announcement. Like I said, of interest rate cuts, if they were 100% confirmed that they were going to come September 16th or 17th, whenever it was there, then what would happen 2 weeks before? People would start to buy because they know what's coming, right? They're pricing that in. And I think that that's exactly what we saw right now. So even though the DXY dropped, pumped, 2%, we saw Bitcoin sell off close to 10%. I think that was a lot of people exiting their positions. So when it comes to how far we can drop, like I can see in the chat, I can see Carl and some of the other guys from the Empire community.
We had that big blow off top, and it hit to an absolute T.
We did, but what I usually like to see is, right, and I'm just going to share my screen for 2 seconds, is on the charts, we find that these market makers, they tend to just like to sweep liquidity. Right? Yes. So you can see there was a high here, bang, they swept that one, took it up. Same thing here. People were buying, they swept it, took it back up. It wouldn't surprise me if we sweep this liquidity here, potentially coming down maybe 110, worst case, potentially 108 to 106. I don't want to see that, but it's on the cards. It's something that I need to be prepared for as a trader.
Yep.
And the issue with that then stems is if this comes down another 10 Gs, even another, say, 6 or 7 grand, that's probably another, say 6 odd percent. Let's just measure that up from where we are now. Say 5% odd. That leaves the alts at another 10% dump potentially, right? Maybe even more. So that's something that we need to be prepared for.
The alts can't handle this.
No, they can't. And then
they cannot handle this.
Going back to what I said at the start of this call, that's why a lot of people during these times, they'll just sit out.
Yep.
They'll just wait.
Do you blame them?
You're gambling right now. Hey?
Do you blame them?
I don't blame them at all.
I personally hit my account balance at all-time high, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to trade a shit show.
No, well, that's right. Well,
I want to trade consistent price action. I want patterns to be playing out. I want volume to be coming into the market. I want clear conviction that says, hey, this is where we're going.
Yeah.
Right now, you've got a shit show.
Well, you know what they say, right? If you try and pick a bottom without confirmation, you're going to get shit on your finger.
I was going to go down the road of the standard. You're trying to catch a falling knife, it might hurt. But
no. You try.
That was a bit extreme.
Try pick a bottom, and you will get shit on your finger.
Fair enough.
Let's go back and have a look at what the data is telling us. And right now, the CME FedWatch tool usually gives us a pretty good indication, and we can see that as of right now, and this can change, and I can almost put my nuts on it, that going over what's going to be shared over the weekend, this most likely will change. But right now, there is still a 73.3% chance of a rate cut coming, which that's high.
It's massive.
That's high.
It's still big, but we know if we put this live whilst he's talking.
Oh, mate.
He's just going to say.
You're just going to watch it skew. Up, down, right? And that's the thing. And the market will also adjust based on what he's saying live. So that's why just be very, very careful if you're in high leverage trades, especially over this next weekend.
It's time to be cautious.
Let's talk about why we may not see the rate cuts. And that is mainly because the Fed members are seeing inflation risks outweighing the employment risks. And when we talk about this, what the Fed wants to see before they start cutting rates is inflation going down, but also they want to see an economy which is struggling.
Well, let's bring that into perspective, right? Why do they want to see inflation coming? Right? What is that going to represent?
Well, that's going to represent that there is not as much buying going on. The prices are coming down.
Exactly. But if they drop rates right now, what is that going to cause? That's going to cause further stimulus. That's going to allow people to have more disposable income,
And then inflation goes up.
Inflation goes back up.
That's right.
And
People
if
start
we
to spend
have
more money.
any more inflation in any of the Western worlds,
Oh.
I think we're on the verge of collapse.
Well, you got to think of it like in COVID. During COVID, what happened, man?
Everyone just spent.
Spent, bro. In COVID, everyone was getting stimulus. And then what happened? Everything just went up. Cars, whatever you wanted to buy.
You know, I built a house during COVID, just before COVID.
Yeah.
That same house now is more than double the cost.
Well, that's the thing,
That
right?
is huge.
Stimulus printed heavily. And guys, if you're enjoying this content so far, please smash that like button and hit subscribe. We go live every Friday.
And we do have
bring
some
you guys
juicy
this offer.
altcoins.
Altcoins. We're definitely
coming.
going to look at some alts. So that's the thing, right? We can't just have massive levels of inflation and then rates getting cut, because inflation will just go out of control, right?
Yeah.
So inflation is one of the most important things, but then also looking at the job numbers, okay? Because if people are out of a job, if there's like companies that are going down because of that, you know, obviously if there's not as much businesses, you know, doing well, they're going to have to cut staff, to cut expenses. How does that then look in terms of, do we need to stimulate the economy because people can no longer afford things, right? So it's a very like a, it's one of those things. It's like scales. What's that scale where you put one on each side and they go like this? I don't know.
It could be. But
That's so bad. Someone's going to meme this, aren't they?
To what you're saying, though, some of the biggest companies in the world right now are seeing this. And they're restructuring businesses globally to represent the fact of what could happen.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can look it up. It's quite easy to find. But it just demonstrates the fact of where we are. It's so fragile. And we were talking about this on Monday. And so just bring this up for 1 second. Bring up my screen. I want to show something.
Go for it.
Because this here, and people go, you know, we talk crypto, but this is the representation of where we're at right now, right? We were talking about this, and I shared this chart, and I've been monitoring this really closely. And I said to the community, I said, we're at this 113 level on Fibonacci. We've got a hanging man confirmation there as well. I said the S&P 500, which we're referring to here, is not looking safe at all, right? Now, in this perspective, what we have, we've actually had a head and shoulders pattern play out directly on the US 500.
There's been no retest.
And the US 500 has absolutely tanked. Now, I'm predicting this to come down to around 6,300, back to the 200 EMA. But again, with this, Bitcoin is heavily correlated. Global markets are correlated. And we've had mass sell-offs, man. I mean, you go over, last night we had a little bit of relief, but otherwise we have had absolute mayhem on the stock market this week in correlation with everything that is going on. So we got to keep on top of all of this.
Definitely. Because, you know, markets, especially now Bitcoin being such a mature asset, we're going to call it.
Yep.
You know, it's they're all correlated right now. So it's definitely something to look at. But let's get back to what to expect, because there are some things that we need to take note of. So for starters, the Fed is going to see inflation numbers as its highest priority. Inflation came in at 3.7. Everyone said that's it. Chances of rate cuts are coming down. From that, we went from the 99% chance that it was, it's dropped down now to 73. But it is all dependent on what Powell says at this Jackson Hole, which is why we have seen this massive sell-off. And if the data doesn't come in, whilst I think a percentage of it is factored in, I still think that we could potentially see a little bit lower. However, looking at the daily, we are seeing the stochastic heavily bottomed. And previously, when a stochastic has heavily bottomed, it has signaled a bit of a retrace. Not all the time, but if we go back and look at the last few times, you know, here was one. We put in that bottom there on the stochastic. Price then ran. Once again, here, price from the bottom, price then ran. So this could signal that, hey, this is now priced in. Traders are getting ready to, or are preparing for the worst. If Powell does come out and says we're going to get a 0.25% rate cut, then Louis Kazar, we are going to chat, because I think that could.
Haven't you guys been chatting all day?
Yeah, we've been chatting all day. Yeah. Props to him. Like, the guy actually knows a thing or two about the markets. He actually does.
Yeah, I've been hearing you guys talk on voice messages all day.
He can't measure percentage. He's hopeless at that from the last week's call. But he actually knows a thing or two about
How
markets.
amazing is this, right? We run this YouTube channel. We had no idea who Lewis was. And now he's like part of the community.
He's in our community now, Mark. I can't wait to get to know him a little bit better.
Have a beer one day.
100%. But look, looking at what we're seeing now, if that rate cut, even if he says the word rate cuts, we are probably going to see a bit of a pump. Now, let's talk about why rate cuts could still happen. Yes, inflation is high, but one of the major things that they also look at is jobs data. And when people are out of jobs, once again, they like to I'm on the right one, aren't I?
Yeah, you put on both if you can look at me.
There you go. What do they like to see? They want to see the jobs market stable. And from what we can see, the massive jobs data revisions are coming. So on September the 9th...
You were telling me about this earlier today.
Yeah.
I thought this was quite fascinating.
Well, they do this often because they get it wrong. And I think this is part of the government's manipulation. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that too much because we might get taken off YouTube.
Might have to do a separate podcast for that one.
We'll have to start streaming on, what's that other platform? Rumble. Anyway, on the September the 9th, the BLS will release its preliminary benchmark revision to non-farm payrolls, the jobs that exclude farming, for April through to March. Goldman Sachs, which is a major institution, has estimated that the revisions could reportedly cut payrolls by 550,000 to 950,000 jobs. So every month they've been coming off the unemployment. It hasn't been looking too bad. Okay. This makes it look very bad. So that implies that the overall growth was overstated by a massive 45 to 80,000 jobs a month.
How do you just misplace 80,000 jobs?
They've done the same thing last year. Mate,
like, that is a lot of jobs. That's not like, a couple of thousand.
Oh, mate,
They've misplaced
it's very
80,000
questionable.
jobs. That is ridiculous.
So if you look here, right, and you see the unemployment claims, and you can see, actual 224 forecast.
So that's probably more around the 300K mark.
Yeah, which is very bad, which says, hey, jobs market isn't what it's like. These have all been bullshit numbers. This happens all the time, though. This happened last year too. Anyway, so the thing is that this announcement is going to come out on September the 9th.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be a really good manipulation play? And this is just me thinking out aloud. Right? You got all these big companies that are ready to step into the market. Trump is organizing that ETF where he wants to buy X amount of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Yeah? You've got all these other companies that are looking to buy a whole bunch of Ethereum and whatever. It makes no sense for any of those companies to come in and say, hey, I'm going to buy Bitcoin up here, or hey, I'm going to go and fat finger a whole bunch of Ethereum at its pretty much all-time high as it's retesting its all-time high.
It is very well known. I probably can say this with confidence. Yeah. We see manipulation whilst people are accumulating their bags.
Massively.
We see it on the stock market. I mean, we just had Intel shares. We were looking at them. And I'm not talking stocks here, but mate, they're at the bottom of the trough where they're at and may not stay there. But hey, I brought in on them. It pumped 20%. Next minute, you get an announcement that pops up. One of the banks invests $2 billion. All of a sudden, the price is on the floor. And then all of a sudden, the US government might take a 10% stake in Intel.
Oh, no.
They wouldn't do that at the all-time high.
But they wouldn't do that at the all-time high.
Way.
No, so they'll wait for a dump first. So how do they make a dump? They have to manufacture a dump. And it doesn't always mean that they are physically manufacturing that dump by spreading out articles and stuff like that. But some of these guys know, hey, I'm going to raise this amount of money because I know that next month this is all aligned. It's like they've got a big WhatsApp chat. And they all just message each other.
It's a pump and dump single.
It is, bro. I'm telling you. It's like they all message each other. It's like, hey, pal, if you can, bro, next month. You know what I mean? It's like they basically...
The bank's got my funds on hold. Just wait for the liquidity to come through. Then you can pump the stimulus.
So, pal, I'm going to get this money on September the 8th. I'm going to buy on the 8th. Then do your jobs on the 9th. And
Trump, you put a tweet out on the 10th and we'll bring it back down.
That's more or less, man. Like, if you think of it, it is manipulated to a sense. If it's that manipulated, I don't know. But, hey.
I love it.
Guys, if you're enjoying this content, please smash like. It actually helps us to get this video out there. It helps us so much. We see we've got 40 people watching right now and 19 likes. Just small little gesture helps us out so much. We thank you so much for that. So going back. Well, the funny thing is I think that even if Powell comes out and says that he's not going to cut rates, I think it's going to be bearish for the next week. I'm still confident.
But everyone is so betting on this. Like, I know
everyone's betting on the rate cut.
Exactly.
Everyone, not just me. Like,
even
the whole
if we have
market.
short-term bearish action, what's going to happen after that?
Well, after short-term bearish action, usually you get at least 61.8 retrace. But hey, look, let's I think that, yeah, the September 9th announcement could change things. I'm going to be setting an alert on my phone for this,
Yep.
right? This has just come out, this news. So this came out on August the 20th, so 2 days ago. It is very fresh information. But in saying that, we need to take a look at how this affects, and I'll use my friend ChatGPT here. So why NFP, non-farm payroll, matters to the Fed. Strong payroll growth signals a hot labor market and risk of wage inflation. Fed is more likely to hold or hike rates.
Yes.
But a weak payroll signals growth signal weak payroll growth signals cooling labor demand, risk of slowdown or recession, Fed more likely to cut interest rates. So this data will have a direct effect.
Yep.
Okay. And
When's that data set to come out? Sorry.
on the 9th of September.
And the interest rate cuts are set to come through potentially on the 18th of September, which is the next announcement.
That's right. So look,
We've still got a little while to wait.
Right now, it's 50-50. This is the data. This is what we're seeing. Low jobs, which is good towards rate cuts, but hot inflation, which is against rate cuts.
All right, you know what? I'm going to come out and just I'm going to put my stamp in this.
Before you do,
All right.
Goldman Sachs has come out though and still said that they expect the Fed to cut 3 times before this year ends, and that's from Goldman Sachs. So maybe they won't cut this month. I hope they do, and I think that it'll be very bullish. And I think if they don't, I think a lot of crypto traders are going to get caught in a massive trap. Everyone's going to think it's a bear market again, and then they're going to get caught by surprise a month or two later when they decide to cut the rates.
This is the thing, though. This market is going to switch so fast, so quickly.
Oh yeah,
and it's going to catch so many people off guard. But I honestly, have you got more? Oh, you got more on this one?
A little bit more. Yeah,
Go for it.
There's still a very high chance in October as well. You can see right now it's 86.4% chance. And then in December, you can see that there's a 50% chance that we're going to have, we're at 4.5 now.
I think they give the Christmas bonus.
Oh, good. But even by December, you can see that there's 3.75 to 4%. So that's basically factoring 3 rate cuts by December, still at a 47% chance, with a 26% chance on top of that it's going to be even lower, which put that together gives you about a 72% chance. So it will come down to what Jerome Powell says.
Yep.
And you know what's funny about it? All he has to do is stand up on stage and do the old good evening. And then boom, market's tump. That's all he has to do.
It's true. We can watch it live.
We can.
You can watch it live.
You know what? If I'm up, I might even live stream it. It's tonight, isn't it?
12 a.m.
It's going to be a stretch. But we are going to probably see that heavy volatility come in tonight, whether we like it or not.
Yep.
So it's eyes on what he says. You'll probably be able to find a live stream to what he's saying. And you could tune in live. And the minute he turns around and says, we're going to lower rates, or he turns around and says quantitative easing, watch the market respond instantly.
Oh, mate. Bring up this chart. I want to show these guys.
All right.
So similar to what Ceds is talking about here with the whole interest rate situation, I'm looking at this really closely because we had a perfect blow off top here, right? Everyone got really excited at 123,000, 124-ish, sorry. And that's the 113 fibs. If you go back over this entire podcast series, you will see me talk about this 113 fib level consistently and the representation which it has. And you can see as soon as we touched that level, we came crashing back down. That also, as we noticed, correlated with the US 500 coming down, correlated with the Dixie going up, right? Now, this is the scary piece for me in this whole scenario. And I honestly think Powell's going to come out tonight and be very neutral. He's not going to give an indication, yes, rate cuts. He's not going to give an indication that there isn't going to be rate cuts. I feel like he's going to come out really neutral. And this is where I expect.
If he's neutral, it's going to be like stalemate.
Exactly.
The price is already factored in, like it's already dumped, but he hasn't said anything. I reckon he's going to do that too.
It's going to happen. I think that's going to happen. And I think it's going to have more uncertainty, which means people are going to be waiting for that 8th, 9th of September news to come out. And then we're going to have so much chop in the lead up. What I'm looking for, you can see here, guys, I use these volume zones religiously. Now, we're trending below the 50 EMA as well. We're trending below the volume zone. Now, for my next real target on this, if this breaks down and this bloke does not give anything clear, or he says, hey, you know what, we're not 100% sure about interest rates, I do suspect this might come down to around that 110, 109K mark. and that there is around anything between 109,600 and 107K. Now, from a perspective of percentages, we've got to look at these percentages because numbers seem big, but remember, a 1% move on Bitcoin right now is a $1,000 candle, so it's nothing major in that sense. It's about a 3.5% pullback. For me, I look at that and I go, you know what, that's probably reasonable if he does come out and doesn't provide any certainty on which way he expects to go, whether it's dovish or hawkish in that respect. So if we're looking at this, I think 3.5% pullback is definitely not off the cards. And considering we blew the top off this bull flag that everyone was watching and have now re-entered, it means a lot of momentum is going to have to come in to swing this back in the upwards direction. That's my take anyway.
Man, look, I'm not against what you're saying. I think he will come in quite neutral. He won't give away too many hints, and I think that will scare the market a little bit more, given the fact that a lot of this is already priced in. At least 110 could be possible, but for me personally, I look at this and I say, well, I'm going to be personally looking at, seeing if I get some good indications for me to buy some dips. I like to buy when everyone's scared. I think that's a general rule of thumb of trading. And when everyone thinks the bull market's over and that's it, that's when you're going to get the biggest shocks, because what we know is when everyone's scared, that selling pressure feeds the whales.
Wait.
Into other news, let's talk about some altcoins.
Let's get into some fun stuff. Let's hit this one right off the bat, because this is hilarious. Because I've always loved this guy's music. I'll say that right now. I thought he was a lyrical genius at one stage, right? And I still listen to his music.
Matty, you thought he's a lyrical genius, but how could he be so heartless?
The first that is perfect. The first thing I'll say is Eminem is the best rapper of all time. But on another note, this man here, Yeezy himself, released a token last night that went to a $3 billion market cap. That is insane.
It's nuts.
However,
no, it's 350 million.
It went to $3 billion market cap.
Did it?
Yes.
Shit.
This thing skyrocketed. It's now at 100 million.
I saw it launch. I got the early indication. I saw when it came out. It was at $1.20. I said to myself, am I going to buy it or am I going to fall for another celebrity coin? I didn't fall for the celebrity coin.
Well, I think you would have been wrapped about this one.
Why?
Because look at this. This bloke owns 87% of the total supply.
She's a gold digger.
Guys, this just blows my marbles, because this is like a one-way ticket to ruin your reputation completely. Don't get me wrong, this bloke hasn't got a great reputation anymore regardless. But the fact of the matter is, it went from a $3 billion market cap. It comes out, everyone finds out he's got 87% hold on the total supply. Next minute, what happens? Yeezy token is worth $102 million market cap. And to top it off, this thing is it's come down like 400-500% already. But said, look at this. There is someone, an unknown balances, just dumping. Someone with an unknown balance has made up $1.7 million, $1.4 million, $1.2 million, and so forth. Guys, you got to remember, no one releases tokens just at the generosity of their own heart, right? I want to come out and say this as well, because if you look at Trump token, that was at $75. It's now worth $8. And you look at Molina token is down 95%.
Matty, you never know. This may come back harder, better, faster, stronger, but I don't think it will.
Jesus Christ. It's just, look, this sort of stuff is always interesting. I mean, we see this happen so much in the crypto market, celebrities announcing tokens, that sort of thing. But, Seth, what are we doing with this? I'm not playing with it. It can do whatever the hell it wants. I just find it hilarious that he decided to launch a token with 87% supply. Did he not have an advisory board that said, hey, mate, maybe just own 10%?
Well, I think these people that are getting into crypto generally have no idea, for starters, right? It's like they've been approached by someone that says, hey, let's make a quick buck. But secondly, I'm not going to touch it because of the fact that I know that if Bitcoin does come down, that this thing's going to eat even more shit than what it already has, as well as with the rest of the market. So right now, no, I'm not interested. I'm not going to touch it. I think it's just another fad. But anyone to hold any 80% of one particular coin, for me, that's warning flags.
Dude, this is the funniest part. Free from centralized authority. That means that technically he wants it to be decentralized, but owns 87% of it. So...
Sorry, Yeezy. Man, I won't be touching your coin in the short term. But what I will be looking at, and let's look at some last-minute altcoins. We'll do some charts before we wrap it up, because it's almost 5 o'clock, Matty. And
Oh, wow. All right, we'll go for another few minutes. Let's go. Let's
no,
smash it
we're going
out.
to look at the altcoins. This is an important
All
part.
right.
And
I'm
then we
excited.
have Crypto Scarface, or Carlin. He's going to go live in the Empire platform to trade the session changeover,
Yes.
the London session. He's going to be looking for some charts. He's been killing it over the last
Do you want me to
couple
hit
of days.
Litecoin whilst I've got it up?
Yes.
All right. Guys, this is what we we're talking about earlier, where we're saying there's been some amazing setups, and the community, we've been looking at these setups and going, hey, there is so much out there right now that looks great, but you're just not getting those big moves that we typically want to attract here. We're actually getting a lot of chop. So I've been watching Litecoin really closely, and we've had these really perfect bounces. I saw everyone in the chat at the 707. This thing bounced off the 707 perfectly. Now, from a TA perspective, this has only been moving about 3%, but it's been doing that all week. And this is what I was saying. I've been in and out of profit all week on this sort of stuff. Now, we've broken out of this. We're holding above the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. We've now got the inverted head and shoulders that is also formed at this critical level as well. But at the same time, I'm still edgy on where this is going to go. I've got a small position on this for the time being, because if it does go, you know what, I'm happy days. But otherwise, I can DCA in if it drops a little bit more. But the setup looks juicy. The setup to me looks great.
It looks
but
so
the
good, but it's so
market
like
at the
such bad
moment,
timing.
That's the problem, right? I look at this on the daily level, and we've had this big inverse head and shoulders form. We're about to get a golden cross here on the Litecoin BTC chart. This to me, if we had any type of week right now that wasn't Jerome Powell speaking, I'd be like, it's time to load my rocket ship.
I'm gonna make a bet with you. What's the bet, right? When Jerome Powell talks, it dumps, flash crashes, retests the golden cross, then comes back up for a hammer within the next couple of days.
Look, I'm not against it.
What's the bet?
I'm not against it. Every time the US is open this week,
Set some alerts at that golden cross and put SEDS is
I already
a gun.
have one.
You have one?
I already have one, but it's not labeled SEDS is the gun.
Well, that's not that's not a good notification.
We'll do it just to be friends.
I think we should put SEDS as a gun there.
SEDS does okay.
Let's just
I'm
mark
going to do. We are on the same page.
All right, done.
Smiley face.
Okay, beautiful.
Done deal.
All right, well, let's let me know when that comes up.
Litecoin is definitely one to top it off that I am actually watching and paying close attention to.
Last week I told everyone about Link. Last 2 weeks I've been talking about it. That thing has pumped.
So this is a funny one, because last week when we spoke about Link, like we were talking about, we had the perfect play. Now, when I say that, I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to make this really simple for everyone. But this is where we were last Friday. You can see this Friday, the 15th of August, right? That is obvious. That is clear on the chart. You go back to the podcast and I said, look, the movement I'm looking at on Link right now, we get the retest. It closed on the daily retest perfectly. We then had a pump of 16%.
Yep.
So look, now I'm not really paying much close attention to Link at this current point in time, but based on the fundamentals of what we're talking about and the buying activity that has been taking place with Link, I mean, this thing has pumped. I took profit on this really early on a leverage position, but this is currently, from my original entry that I had at around 13 bucks, it is nearly up 100%. This has been one of the best performing altcoins in the top 100 over this period of time.
Amazing. Link's doing really well, especially with the weekly buybacks that they've been getting. Now, guys, we're going to do one thing. We have currently got 42 people on this call and only 23 likes. We get 7 more likes. I'm going to give you guys the list of altcoins that we're watching. And you know what? Matty might even chart them for you. So we'll give you guys a couple seconds to do that. But while you're doing that, Matty, let's take a quick look at Ethereum.
Ethereum, all right. Do you still think this thing's going to 10 grand?
Yeah, long term.
Oh.
Not tomorrow. I think long term.
Everyone's the 10 grand genius on this one. This one here, I'm gonna show this one as well from a weekly perspective, just quickly before I even dive into much more. But again, I just can't. Oh, the 113 fib rejection.
Yeah, I'm seeing that right now.
Right there where it's at. But on the daily time frame, we're looking at this, guys. This is very similar to a lot of other tokens out there at the moment. We've had these breakouts that are occurring, right? Breakouts on the altcoin market. I've been looking at this on the 4-hour time frame in particular. We can tidy this up a little bit. But if we keep this really simple, we've had a big downtrend form, right? Now we're starting to put in reversal signals. But the market conditions just have not been great this week to let these play out. Again, I'm watching this. I'm similar to SEDS. I reckon we might get that flash wick just to come back up. But that's what I'm watching right at the moment with Ethereum. I'm going to show you guys this now. Sorry, my mouse just disconnected there for a second. But the moment, if I drag this down and I'm looking at this, I want to see a breakout here, right? We've got the inverse head and shoulders that has formed. If I'm looking at this from this perspective from Ethereum, right? I'm very much a trader. You guys know I don't hold these things. But look, that there, 4,500 isn't off the cards. It's the target for that as well. So that's what I'd be looking for. But again, unless we get the breakout retest confirmation, that's exactly what I want to look for. We haven't got that just yet.
Yeah.
So we're still in a little bit of limbo and a little bit of hopium to wait for it to break out, to be completely honest. So,
well, that's it, guys. Well, look, before we go, Matty, show everyone your shitcoin. And we're not going to, we didn't hit 30 likes, so we're not going to be doing the full list of altcoins today. But guys, if you do want this kind of alpha on a weekly basis, make sure you've hit like, make sure you subscribe, put your notification bell on so you're alert next time we go live.
that's it.
And don't forget that in the link, you'll find the link to Empire Crypto Trading. We're about to launch our 2.0 version for Empire, where you guys are going to get a whole lot of alpha. For those of you who are sitting there scrolling on Twitter looking for sources where to find the alpha, you're going to find everything all in our platform. And that's going to be launching on beta on Monday. So make sure you jump into our current platform, because in 12 minutes, Carlin's going to go live and he is going to be doing live trading for the session changeover. Matty, give him a little hint of what it's going to look like.
Guys, just a little bit of a gaze here. You can see we have done a complete revamp of Empire.
Well, some people don't even know what Empire is, man.
Mate, all right. Look, we have developed the ultimate crypto hub. This is going to be the one-stop shop, essentially. You will not need X anymore. You will not need a Discord. You will not need to be in 35 different signal groups. We are pulling in all the data, all the research. This is going to be your one-stop shop: education, research, live calls, community chats. You'll be able to call your mate down the road to talk about crypto via the Empire app. This is how advanced this thing has been in development. It's been developed now.
Not to mention some of the AI stuff that we're integrating.
And the AI stuff, the trade idea pages that are coming. This is the ultimate hub. Now, existing members are going to get the most exclusive access to a lot of this.
We're not going to tell them about this yet.
We're not telling anyone what any of this is. But I can tell you one thing right now. If you're an Empire Premium member, make sure you keep up that subscription. Make sure you do not let that lapse. And make sure, if you are still waiting on the sidelines, to cut the shit and hurry up and get in, because this thing is going to be absolutely insane with the amount of value it delivers straight at your fingertips.
Let's just say the current members are going to get all the new features at the same price.
100%.
And new members that come in after, it's going to be double.
110%. The existing members will be the ones we're looking after. But Ceds, I'm going to do this before we break away.
Come on.
Guys, we had to do it. The frog is in.
We didn't. We really didn't.
We have to do it. Can I just point out, stage 10 is what we spoke about last week. Sorry, stage 11. We are now at stage 12. So we have raised another, Little Pepe raised another $2.5 million in the last week. We've got 7 more stages left for the pre-sale. Now, I just want to clear this up. Some people have gone to me and said, hey, what does this mean? Like, when's it launching? What's pre-sale, etc. Pre-sale, you can buy tokens before they're released. We got in at stage 2 at a much cheaper price than what it is now, or a lot of us did anyway. But this has a 3-month cliff. It means they're not going to have access to your tokens for 3 months after launch. All right, that's from what I'm reading on the website and the news articles and things like that. But then also it's called a TGE. They're going to be releasing tokens 5% every month after. So you're not going to have full access of all your tokens within a 2-year period, essentially. So just wanted to clear that off the bat, because I get a lot of messages about this. Again, guys, I have no association with this token. It could absolutely go to zero. I don't care.
Very high risk.
I wanted to play in it.
I'll put $100 in it just to shut up, Matty, but I still think it's shit.
I won't lie. I did put $2,000 into it. So we'll see how we go.
We've got some guys in the chat that are saying when Empire coin. And guys, you know, one vision that Matty and I have said, and nobody knows this, but in our current platform, there is like a monetized point system. So the more you post in our platform, you're accumulating points, okay? When we launch our new platform, you're also going to be accumulating more points as we start to roll it out, right?
Yep.
Give you guys a quick look at what that looks like. When we eventually decide that we are going to turn this into a token, which is more of a longer term goal, all the people that have been active in accumulating those points, the high probability that they are going to be the size of your airdrop in the Empire platform. So if start accumulating them, start posting, get involved.
Let's just talk about this for a second, right? Well, what he's saying is 100% correct, right? But guys, the one thing you got to remember, whenever platforms release tokens, it puts a massive expectation on the fact, you know what, that token needs to go up, blah, blah, blah. It actually destroys brands when they release tokens on absolute crap and air.
Yeah.
Right?
We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. We don't want to be seen as a company, hey, you need to do tokens. Where's my tokens? It's like, the fact if we're going to release a token, it's going to be based on something that you can actually utilize, whether that's something within the Empire platform. It's going to be actually beneficial versus, hey, I've got to pump something up for an evaluation.
Yeah,
That's not what we want.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be an ecosystem and a use case for it. And we've already been discussing ideas on how that's going to look. It may include some AI features, but hey, I'm not going to give away too much right now. Let's cut it at that. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have a good week. Make sure you've hit subscribe, like this video to help us get more distribution out for this video. And we will see you next Friday. Until then, stay safe and stay safe tonight.